My Aunt Angelique has a tell, a slight upturn at the corner of her mouth, barely visible unless you know to look for it. It appears whenever she thinks she's caught someone in a lie, or better yet, in a moment of exposed poverty. I've been watching that micro-expression for 23 years, ever since she married into our family and appointed herself the guardian of our collective social standing. Today, as we stood outside the jewelry store on Fifth Avenue, I saw it again. She thought she had me cornered. I'm Maria Jensen. I'm 43 years old, and for the past 18 years, I've been a naval officer, currently holding the rank of captain in the United States Navy, though most people outside the military would incorrectly call me colonel, since they don't understand naval rank structure. My family doesn't know this. They think I work in some vague administrative capacity for the Department of Defense. Paperwork, I've told them. Logistics coordination. Both technically true, both wildly incomplete. What they don't know is that I command a destroyer, that I've overseen maritime operations across 3 oceans, that my last fitness report described me as exceptionally qualified for flag officer rank. What they don't know is that my salary, combined with 18 years of careful investing and the bonuses that come with hazardous duty assignments, has left me considerably wealthier than anyone in my immediate family. But I've never corrected their assumptions, never felt the need to prove anything, until today. Mireya, darling, are you sure you want to go in there? Angelique gestured at the jewelry store with one perfectly manicured hand, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the afternoon light. This is Thornton and Meyer. They don't exactly cater to people on government salaries. We were supposed to be having a pleasant afternoon together. That's what she'd said when she'd called 3 days ago, suggesting we meet for lunch and some shopping. Quality time, she'd called it. I should have known better. Angelique didn't do quality time, she did performance reviews. I need a watch, I said simply, pushing open the door. The interior was exactly what you'd expect from a high-end jewelry store. Understated elegance, soft lighting, display cases positioned at careful intervals. A sales associate looked up from behind the counter, her professional smile already in place. Good afternoon, ladies. How may I help you? Just browsing, Angelique said quickly, as if she needed to establish that we weren't serious buyers. Then, to me, in a stage whisper clearly meant to be overheard. Remember, Mireya, there's no shame in window shopping. We can't all afford these prices. The sales associate's smile didn't falter, but I saw her eyes flick between us, recalibrating. I approached the display case, ignoring Angelique's commentary. The watches were beautiful. Omega, Breitling, Tag Heuer, Rolex. Serious timepieces for serious people. I'd worn a standard-issue military watch for most of my career, something that could survive salt water and rough seas. But I'd been thinking lately about getting something nicer, something for formal occasions, something that reflected where I'd arrived after 2 decades of service. Could I see some of your simpler pieces? I asked the sales associate. Something practical, under $200 perhaps? The words hung in the air for a moment. I watched Angelique's expression shift. First surprise, then that familiar upturn at the corner of her mouth. She'd gotten what she wanted, confirmation. Proof that I was exactly what she'd always suspected, someone who couldn't afford to be here. Under 200? The sales associate looked genuinely confused. Ma'am, I'm not sure we have anything in that price range. Our entry-level pieces start around. Is that all you can do, my dear? Angelique interrupted, her voice dripping with false sympathy. And you act like you're a queen? There it was, the judgment I'd been waiting for. The condescension she'd been building toward all afternoon, maybe for years. I could have walked away. Should have, probably. This whole situation was beneath me. Literally beneath me, given that I held command authority over 300 sailors and operated equipment worth hundreds of millions of dollars. What did I care what Angelique thought of my finances? But I was tired. Tired of the constant assessment, the measuring, the assumption that my worth could be calculated in visible displays of wealth. Actually, a voice said from the back of the store, I believe Ms. Jensen was making a preliminary inquiry. I turned to see Leonard Thornton himself emerging from the private consultation room at the rear of the store. He was in his 60s, silver-haired, impeccably dressed, and currently holding a large black case with the kind of careful reverence usually reserved for religious artifacts. "Colonel Jensen," he said, using the technically incorrect but commonly understood translation of my rank. "Your collection of exclusive Rolex watches is complete, $180,000. Should I show them to you?" The store went very, very quiet. Not silent? There was still the faint hum of climate control, the distant sound of traffic outside, the almost imperceptible tick of dozens of expensive watches marking time. But the human sound stopped completely. The sales associate froze mid-gesture. Angelique's mouth opened slightly, then closed, then opened again. And I stood there, watching my aunt's face cycle through expressions faster than I could catalog them. Confusion, disbelief, a desperate search for some explanation that would make this make sense within her existing worldview. "I'm sorry," she finally managed. "Did you say $180,000? Leonard set the case on the counter with practiced care. "Indeed, 6 pieces, all from our exclusive collection. The Submariner date, the GMT Master 2, the Daytona Colonel Jensen specified she wanted examples from each of Rolex's major professional watch lines. She placed the order 4 months ago, paid in full at the time. We've been waiting for several pieces to come in from Switzerland." He opened the case. Even I, who had seen them in photographs during the selection process, caught my breath slightly. They were magnificent, each watch a masterpiece of engineering and design, each one costing more than most people's cars. "4 months ago," Angelique repeated, as if saying it again would help her understand. "You ordered these 4 months ago." "Yes." I picked up the Submariner, feeling its weight, the cool metal against my skin. "I thought it was time to start a collection. Something to mark certain milestones. Promotions. Successful operations, that sort of thing. But you asked about watches under $200. "I was being polite," I said calmly, testing the Submariner's clasp, making conversation with the sales associate. I didn't want to come in demanding to see Leonard immediately. That would have been rude. Leonard was smiling now, clearly enjoying this. "Colonel Jensen is one of our most valued clients. When she called to schedule today's pickup, I made sure to have everything ready in the private consultation room. Though I must admit," he glanced at Angelique, "I didn't realize she'd be bringing a guest." "My aunt," I said, the word feeling strange in my mouth. "Angelique." She was concerned about whether I could afford to shop here. "I see." Leonard's tone suggested he saw quite a lot. "Well, I can assure you that Colonel Jensen's financial credentials are impeccable. In fact, she's already expressed interest in several pieces from our upcoming estate auction. Vintage Patek Philippe, if I'm not mistaken. The 1950s Calatrava, I confirmed, depending on condition and provenance." Angelique made a small sound, something between a cough and a gasp. Her hand reached out to steady herself against the display case, and I watched her diamond bracelet, the one she wore to every family gathering, the one she mentioned constantly as a gift from her husband, catch the light. It was nice, probably cost $15,000, maybe $20,000. I was wearing 6 watches worth nearly 10 times that amount. The mathematics of the situation seemed to be slowly penetrating her understanding. "I don't," she started, then stopped. Tried again. "How can you afford?" "Afford?" I set down the Submariner and picked up the GMT Master 2, admiring the way the blue and red bezel caught the light. "Well, let's see. Naval captain's salary with 18 years of service. Hazard pay from multiple deployments, sea pay, housing allowances, investment income from a fairly aggressive but well-managed portfolio, and the general benefits of not spending money on things I don't need just to impress people who don't matter." Each word landed like a stone in still water. "But you never said, you always acted like what? Like I was struggling? I never said that. I never acted that. You assumed it, and I didn't bother to correct you because, frankly, Angelique, your opinion of my finances has never been relevant to my life." Leonard had stepped back slightly, giving us space, but I could see he was listening intently. The sales associate had moved to help another customer who just entered, but she kept glancing over, clearly riveted. "Naval captain," Angelique said slowly, testing the words. "Not, you said you did paperwork, coordination. I do paperwork, I coordinate things. I coordinate defensive operations. I coordinate personnel assignments across a crew of 300. I coordinate with allied naval forces during joint operations. It's all very coordinated. You command a ship, not a question. A realization, spoken aloud to make it real. A destroyer, yes, has been my primary duty assignment for the past 3 years. Before that, I was executive officer on a cruiser. Before that, department head positions on 2 different vessels. I've spent most of my adult life at sea, Angelique, making decisions that actually matter, doing work that actually counts for something. But you never told us. You never asked. I set down the GMT Master 2 and picked up the Daytona, the chronograph functions clicking satisfyingly under my fingers. Not really. You asked what I did, and I gave you answers. And you decided those answers meant I was barely getting by? You decided I was someone to pity, someone to condescend to. And I let you, because correcting you seemed more exhausting than just letting you think whatever made you comfortable. She was crying now. Actual tears running down her carefully made-up face, leaving trails through her foundation. I was trying to help. No, you weren't. You were trying to establish a hierarchy. Trying to make sure everyone knew where they stood in relation to everyone else. And you decided, without any actual evidence, that I stood somewhere near the bottom. I picked up the case, holding all 6 watches, feeling their combined weight. $180,000. More than some people made in 3 years. Less than I'd spent on my investment portfolio this year alone. Leonard, thank you for having these ready. The collection is perfect. My pleasure, Colonel. Should I arrange for insurance documentation to be sent to your usual address? Please, and let me know when the Calatrava becomes available for viewing. I'll make time in my schedule. I turned to leave, then paused, looking back at Angelique. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Her designer handbag, her expensive dress, her diamond bracelet, they all looked like costumes now. Props in a performance that had just been revealed as meaningless. For what it's worth, I said quietly, I never wanted to make you feel small. I just wanted you to stop trying to make me feel small. There's a difference. I'd be lying if I said the revelation at the jewelry store was the beginning of something new between Angelique and me. It wasn't. If anything, it was the end of something that had never been particularly healthy to begin with. She called 2 days later, left a voicemail that I listened to 3 times, trying to parse the genuine emotion from the performative guilt. Mireya, I don't know what to say. I've been thinking about what happened at the store, and I'm embarrassed. Mortified, really. I never meant to make you feel... I just thought, oh God, I don't even know what I thought. Can we talk, please? I didn't call back immediately. Spent a week thinking about it while I prepared for my next deployment. A joint training exercise with the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force, 3 weeks at sea coordinating anti-submarine warfare drills. Finally, the night before I left, I called her back. It's Mireya. Oh, thank God, I didn't know if you'd... I'm deploying tomorrow. I have about 20 minutes before I need to finish packing. Of course, I wanted to apologize, properly. What I said at the jewelry store, what I've been saying for years. It was wrong. It was cruel. And I'm sorry. I sat down on my bed, surrounded by the organized chaos of pre-deployment packing. Uniforms folded precisely, documents in waterproof cases. The watch case from Thornton & Meyer, still unopened on my dresser. Why did you assume I was struggling? I asked. What made you so certain? She was quiet for a long moment. I think because you never showed off. You never bragged. You never wore expensive clothes, or drove fancy cars, or talked about money. And in my world, people who have money always show it. It's what you do. It's how you prove you matter. That's sad, Angelique. I know, her voice cracked. I know it is, and I'm realizing now that I've spent so much time worrying about what things cost and who has what, that I never actually got to know my own family. I don't know what you do, really. I don't know what commanding a ship means. I don't know anything about your life, except that Apparently, you make enough money to spend 6 figures on watches without blinking. That's not the point of the watches. I know, I'm starting to understand that. I looked at the case on my dresser, thinking about what each watch represented. Not money, exactly. Milestones. Achievements. Moments in a career that mattered to me, that I wanted to commemorate in some tangible way. I don't need you to understand my life, I said carefully. But I need you to stop judging it. Stop assuming you know what I can or can't afford, what I do or don't do, who I am or am not. Just stop. I will, I promise. I'll try anyway. That's all I'm asking. We talked for another 10 minutes, carefully, both of us navigating new territory. Before we hung up, she asked if she could come to my change of command ceremony when I eventually took command of my next ship, something larger, likely a cruiser, if my career progression continued on its current trajectory. I'd like to understand, she said, what you do, who you are. I'd like to actually know you if you'd let me. We'll see, I said, which was honest. I didn't know if our relationship could be rebuilt from this point, didn't know if I even wanted to try. But at least now we were both being honest about what existed between us. That was something. The deployment went well. The exercises were successful. I spent 3 weeks at sea, commanding my ship, making decisions, living the life I'd built for myself, the life my family had never bothered to understand. When I returned, there was a package waiting at my apartment, from Angelique. Inside was a book, a thick, detailed history of the United States Navy focused on surface warfare and destroyer operations. The note tucked inside was brief. Starting my education, thought I should understand what you actually do. A. I put the book on my coffee table next to the watch case, 2 objects representing 2 different versions of understanding. The watches, my own recognition of my achievements. The book, someone else's attempt to recognize them too. Maybe that was enough for now. I opened the watch case, selected the Submariner, appropriate for a naval officer I'd always thought, and put it on. The weight felt right on my wrist, substantial. Earned. My phone buzzed. A text from my executive officer. Captain, we've been invited to present at the Naval War College Symposium next month. Topic: Multinational Coordination in Modern Naval Operations. Interested? I smiled and typed back, absolutely, send me the details. This was my life, command. Responsibility. Recognition from people who actually understood what I did and what it meant. Everything else, family drama, social hierarchies, assumptions about worth and wealth, was just noise. And I'd spent too many years listening to noise instead of focusing on the signal. Not anymore. I looked at my reflection in the mirror, at the watch on my wrist, at the woman who'd built something real and meaningful through years of hard work and dedication. Queen, I said softly, remembering Angelique's mocking tone at the jewelry store, you act like you're a queen. Maybe I did, maybe I was. And maybe it was time I stopped apologizing for it.